Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're discussing Malice by Keigo Higashino. This was requested by my patron Choco. This is my second Keigo Higashino book and the second book in his series featuring Detective Kaga. The other book that I read by him that was about Detective Kaga was this one, which I'm forgetting the name right now. That one was a little bit more lighthearted in a way than this one, where we're getting so many POVs, and some of them are just sort of like people around town who are sort of connected to the murdered woman. And it's a whodunit, but definitely not in like the traditional sense whatsoever. This is not a whodunit. Malice is a psychological crime novel that is, I guess, exploring the theme of deception, but not in a way that I felt like it used its time and tools to the best of its ability, unfortunately. It's not really about solving the crime, it's more about figuring out the details behind the crime to figure out the motive. This book has a dual narrative structure that I felt was pretty poorly utilized here because of the specific way that the narration is. It's a ton of monologuing. We get two perspectives, and both of them have this problem of monologuing. I gave this book a 2.25, but I would have rated it much higher if it had been narrated differently. Just that simple change would have made all the difference. Despite being a sort of, I don't want to call it a murder mystery, but sort of like a mystery surrounding a murder, and having the opportunity for suspense and big reveals, this book didn't take the opportunity to do that at any point. I didn't read the synopsis before going in. I went in fully blind, but I'll give you the synopsis so that you are not going in fully blind. Acclaimed best-selling novelist Kunihiko Hidaka is found brutally murdered in his home on the night before he's planning to leave Japan and relocate to Vancouver. His body is found in his office in a locked room within his locked house by his wife and his best friend, both of whom have rock-solid alibis, or so it seems. Police detective Kayochiro Kaga recognizes Hidaka's best friend from years ago when they were both teachers. This felt like it was going to be more important when it was introduced into the story, and then it turned out to be not important at all. It's another reason why I'm like, oh, why didn't we utilize that? Kaga joined the police force while Nonoguchi became a writer, though not with nearly the same success of his friend Hidaka. When Kaga suspects something is a little bit off with Nonoguchi's statement, he investigates further, searching Nonoguchi's apartment. There he finds evidence that shows that the two writers' relationship was very different than the two claimed. The detective and the writer battle over the truth of the past and how events that led to the murder really unfolded, which one of the two writers was ultimately guilty of malice. It becomes clear almost immediately, especially if you didn't go in having read the synopsis, and you were wondering, is this going to be a traditional murder mystery? No! But again, neither was the last Higashino book I read. That definitely just seems to be his style, his approach to writing these, is to approach it from a different angle. And in the last book, I thought that was really interesting, though the way that the answer played out in the end I felt was a little bit lackluster, because we sort of saved until the end the big answer in a way that we didn't even get hints along the way. We were just seeing well, it could be this person, it's not though. Could be this person, it's not though. Could be this person, it's not though. I really like something that keeps me guessing. I'm a murder she wrote kind of gal, which is basically just Scooby-Doo for old ladies. Now, this particular angle that we approach the story from could have worked for me, but we narrowed in on the speaker and not the scene. So pretend that I am in a blank room. There's nothing behind me. I'm wearing nothing but stark white or plain black clothes, and I am not emoting anything to you. I am simply telling you very flatly what happens here with no emotion. That is how the narration becomes, particularly towards the end of the book. This left me super unsatisfied. What I thought this book was going to do was be a whodunit where you're unsure if it's one of two people. And that also never happened. So I had expectations for this that simply never panned out. Again, part of that is my fault because I did not read the synopsis going into it. So the novel begins with a conversation between two writers/friends. So Hidaka and Nonoguchi. And this is told to us by Nonoguchi. They're talking about Hidaka's moved to Canada. They're talking about work. They're both writers. Right after this, Hidaka's body is found, and they were supposed to have met up. His body is found in his home the night before he's about to move to Canada with his wife, and the initial investigation points to him having been hit over the head with a blunt object in his office at home, which had a locked door. So Nonoguchi gets drawn into this investigation, especially by Detective Kaga, who randomly, they used to work together. Nonoguchi is also a teacher. So then we go back and forth in narration between Nonoguchi and Kaga. Nonoguchi is giving us first-hand accounts of things that he experienced up until the murder. So for instance, one of the things that's talked about in the opening scene between him and Hidaka is that Hidaka killed his neighbor's cat. So we're set up to believe that Hidaka was a particular kind of guy right off the bat. But obviously, this is a murder coming, or, it happens, so you sort of are taking everything with a grain of salt. But you're supposed to trust Nonoguchi because he seems so unassuming and chill. But again, he's the one narrating it. It's in his voice entirely. I did this, I did that. So then it's kind of jarring at first to switch over to Detective Kaga's POV, which isn't in first person. But the point of this was to sort of create, a stark contrast between subjective and objective POV. If you like a book with an unreliable narrator, you could try this one, but because of how it pans out in the end, I don't know that I would recommend this. I would just say this is a book with an unreliable narrator. We have a long conversation about malice and intention. And really this book is about, okay, if this murder happened because of malice, what was the reason behind that malice? Was it betrayal? Was it extortion? Was it an affair? Was it jealousy? Was it revenge? And all of these things are presented to us as, well, now it's this, and now it's this reason, and now it's this. But in the end, it's explained very flatly that the reason is just malice for malice's sake, which I thought was a pretty unsatisfactory answer. This book did successfully, using its narration, set me up to believe that these two writers were friends. Using that subjectivity from Nonoguchi's point of view in first person, explain oh, he was so terrible. I can't believe he poisoned his neighbor's cat. And we have this tentative friendship. It does a really good job convincing you that Nonoguchi is a particular guy and that Hidaka is also another kind of particular guy. But then you come in with this very monotone Detective Kaga. In fact, I feel like Detective Kaga was so different in this book than he was in the other one. Again, the other one felt a little bit more lighthearted, and this one, I don't know if something happens between then and now to make him nicer. I think this book happens after the other one that I read. In Malice, Detective Kaga seemed like a very monotone, almost like Eeyore kind of character, where he's just oh bother, solving this murder. I got lied to again. It's taking me forever to figure out the motive. So I did enjoy Detective Kaga less in this one, but I do appreciate how smart he is. I like a smart detective character, but I can't say that he did anything in this book to really set himself apart. And in the other book, in Newcomer, this actually made me like Newcomer even more. He did set himself apart so much, especially from the other detectives that he was working in that little small area of Tokyo. So the novel structure, getting back to that, I just really feel like that really is what did the huge disservice here. The alternating between perspectives creates tension. It creates suspense. At first, it's playing with your expectations at first, but then this didn't meet the expectations I have. The bare minimum expectation I have is to be surprised, to be moved in some way. You learn what you need to know early on, and all that's left is the why. You know who did it, all that's left is the why. Then you learn the why and you're oh yeah, tough situation, that sucks, Then you switch perspectives and learn in the most monotone way that everything you've heard up till now is a lie. And the real answer is that there is no real motive. It's just malice. But you don't hear this from the killer. You hear it about the killer by someone who's talking to the killer, and the killer at this point doesn't say anything the rest of the book. But we don't even, that would be fine, kind of, if we had other things to substitute with. I want to be moved. I want to know what his body language is like. I want to know what his facial expression looks like. But we don't hear any of that. And that narrative choice really caused me to feel like this was so lackluster in the end. There's a movie that has an almost similar ending, sort of. Not really, but there's some small parallel here, where the final scene is this major twist. So the book is called the movie is called Primal Fear. It's from the 90s. It was Edward Norton's first movie, and he is playing alongside Richard Gere, who is his lawyer. This is based in Chicago, where Richard Gere is a defense attorney who believes that his client, who's an altar boy, Edward Norton, is not guilty of murdering a Catholic bishop. I'm going to spoil the movie, by the way, and then I'm going to talk about, from here on out, I'm doing spoilers, both about Malice and about this 1990s movie. I don't like this movie because of certain things, but I'm just making a comparison about how it ends versus how Malice ends. A doctor evaluates Aaron, Aaron, the altar boy played by Edward Norton, who is accused of killing this bishop. And the doctor says that Aaron has dissociative identity disorder caused by years of abuse. He was abused by his father, and then he was also abused sexually by this Catholic bishop. The judge dismisses the jury in the end in favor of a bench trial to declare Aaron not reason by guilty of insanity. Or not guilty by reason of insanity, sorry. So the final scene in this movie is Richard Gere is talking to Aaron, his client, and he's behind bars. He's going on, he's going to be admitted into a facility. And Aaron now says something to his lawyer, Richard Gere, things that Aaron, the distinct personality that is Aaron, could not have been aware of. And this causes the lawyer to realize, oh, you were aware of those things. So you were conscious during those things. You are not the other alter. You were aware of those things during the attack. So you lied. And Aaron's like, oh, you finally figured it out. Brags about having committed the murder of the bishop and of a woman, has no remorse, and has been faking having dissociative identity disorder, which is part of why I don't like the movie. And so the attorney asks, was Roy, the alter who committed the murders, according to the client, a fake persona the entire time? The client, Edward Norton, responds, it was Aaron who was fake the whole time. So he is saying, I've been the murderer, knowing what I've been doing this entire time, and is basically laughing at him. Now, again, I don't like the movie, but I do admit that the final scene landed the impact that it was supposed to land. I felt deeply unsettled. It caused me to question everything that I had watched for the 2 hours up to this point and see it with entirely new eyes. And it also has a major impact on the lawyer, because you know about the lawyer, you know his backstory and how this is so deeply personal to him, because he was a lawyer who had sent an innocent man to death row, and now he has sent a guilty man not to prison. So the ending is really potent with everything that you've experienced with these people for the last 2 hours, and it is shocking. It lands that shocking moment that was the intention of the people who created and wrote the movie. Malice's ending could have hit that same note if it weren't for the fact of the perspectives being so singular in what they were doing, so full of monologue. When Edward Norton is saying, I've lied to you all along, you're shocked. You're wondering how you could have been so fooled. You're shocked on behalf of the lawyer. And this is because you're seeing both of them. You're experiencing their facial expressions, their mannerisms. You're hearing the conversation go back and forth with them in real time. There's nothing monotone about it. You have all this stuff coming at you at once, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed and horrified at the same time. Now, movies also, I have to say that they have the benefit of having a visual scene that doesn't have to be described. It's on the screen. And they also have audio. So there's going to be music that is playing to your emotions and emphasizing what they're trying to bring out of you, right? A book does not have that. A movie just naturally has a sense of place, and your other senses are engaged. Books have to do that from scratch. They have to write out all of that and spell all of that out for you. And in this final scene of Malice, the author just chose not to do that. It's just Detective Kaga talking at the killer flatly. He even gives him a chance to say something, and he's like, oh, nothing to say? And you don't hear, it just goes. It says, oh, you have nothing to say, and moves on. And you don't hear anything from Nonoguchi or about Nonoguchi at all. Oh, by the way, Nonoguchi's the killer, obviously. So the guy is guilty and the book ends. That's it. So up to this point, we heard Nonoguchi explain, Hidaka, he killed his neighbor's cat. He was awful to his first wife. I was supposed to meet up with him, and I noticed that, all the lights were off at his house. Nobody answered the door. I called his wife. We went to the house, and there we found him, and he was dead. And immediately Detective Kaga is suspicious of this guy. Now, I thought that Detective Kaga, having worked with Nonoguchi previously, would have something to do with him catching him in lies. Had nothing to do with that. We're also told that Hidaka was being accused of writing about somebody and doing it in a way that was indecent to their memory, he'd created a fictionalized version of them, and then their family was very disappointed. So we're sort of set up to believe that Hidaka was one way. So Kaga says, okay, I know you had something to do with this. Why don't you tell me what happened? So Nonoguchi says, okay, but only if I can write it in my own words. And so he tells about, he's writing down a story, a version of events. And so you hear this in first person, and you hear that Hidaka was stealing all of Nonoguchi's ideas, and that he was holding these hostage over Nonoguchi because Nonoguchi tried previously to kill Hidaka because Nonoguchi was in love with Hidaka's first wife, and he hated Hidaka because Hidaka was so mean, and he was stealing ideas, and he wanted his wife, and he was like, all right, I'll just take him out. Nonoguchi says that Hidaka woke up, when he was about to kill him, and he said, ha, I will hold this over your head and steal more of your stories. And he alludes to the idea that Hidaka either killed his wife or he pushed her into dying by suicide. So you're like, wow, yeah, that's a really shitty situation, Nonoguchi. You shouldn't have killed him, but yeah, you shouldn't have done that. But yeah, I understand like why you were so angry. So then Detective Kaga comes back again. He's like, you lied again. But now we switch like entirely into Kaga's POV, where he then goes and looks into their history. They knew each other when they were kids, and then later they hooked up as adults and not hooked up. Sorry. They re-met again as adults, and they sort of worked together. And what Kaga originally was like told and thought was that Hidaka was a really mean kid. He was a bully. And then come to find out, Nonoguchi was a bad kid. Nonoguchi was a mean kid. Nonoguchi and his mom hated Hidaka even when they were kids. None of that stuff happened. There was never any love between Nonoguchi and Hidaka's first wife. And Hidaka was not holding Nonoguchi's stories for ransom and taking them on as his own. So Kaga explains all of this to him. Here's everything I found out, and you are not hearing from Nonoguchi whatsoever. You're just sitting listening to this monologue from Detective Kaga that is so long, explaining you just did this out of malice, and you never hear from Nonoguchi. And then the book just ends. And I was so disappointed by this because I was waiting for that sort of Edward Norton moment, minus the dissociative identity disorder part, where he's like, I did lie. I'm laughing at you. This is hilarious that I've tricked you this entire time. I've wasted your time. I am just a dick. I am just an asshole. I did do these things. I did them on purpose just because I wanted to. And it's like shocking how you're like, oh, you lied to me. But instead, like, you've been told several times you've been lied to, and then you never hear from Nonoguchi. And you're just supposed to be like, oh, thanks for letting me know, Detective Kaga. That being so monologue-y and so singular in what it was doing, in that it wasn't even a conversation. It was literally just words, explaining, you did this, you lied about this, and this. You were a bad kid. You and your mom hated him. He never stole from you. You were never in love with his wife. You killed him. Here's all the times that I realized you were lying. Here were all the hints. And that's it. Nothing to say for yourself? Okay. He didn't, I was like, wait, give him a chance. Like, give him a chance to respond here. I was shocked. I was like shocked at how this ended, but not in a like story kind of way, but in a storytelling kind of way. Like, why did you choose to do that? I was really disappointed because I wanted to hear, like, what does Nonoguchi have to say for himself getting caught after, telling us all of these different versions of events where he is the victim, and then finally getting caught and he's just quiet? Nonoguchi's quiet? After all that? So I was really disappointed by the ending because I think the setup was pretty cool. I was really impressed by how much they made me hate Hidaka so quickly, but in my defense, anybody who's like accused of killing a cat, I'm like, oh, I hate them. And then it turns out Nonoguchi killed the cat, but you don't even hear him confess this. I wanted to hear him confess it. You say it. You say you killed that cat. Say it. Wow, I guess I have strong feelings about the cat. Artemis. Love you. She's so confused right now. So that was my experience reading Malice by Keigo Higashino. Let me know what murder story you think has the best twist ending. Leave it in the comments down below. If you made it this far, leave a cat emoji. Justice for the cat that Nonoguchi killed. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. And before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons are Alexander, Andy, Ashley H, Astra, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Cami, Chocos, Homesick for Taiwan, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Eric D, Jess, Joel White, John E, K, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Katie M, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Another Lex, Lily, Mataraptor, Max B, Megwin Rose, Melissa, Minby, Mixer Boneless, Alice, Peggy Lou, Rain, Ree, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlett, Spoopy, Steph Bowen, 3 Raccoons in a Trench Coat, I love that name, Tori, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, and Zorvictia. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And last but not least, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my potato search Marxists, and those are Alejandra, Alicia Needs a Nap, Alistair, Althea, Amanda D, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blythe, Bookish by Jenna, Bookish Rabbit, Bree, Kate B, Caitlin, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, Claire Online, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Courtney, Darius, Danielle, Desiree Michelle, Dorothea, Is Not Like Other Girls, Drive-By Thinker, Ebby, Emily A, Emma, Aaron with 2 E's, Fiona, Gadarn, Gilf Enthusiast, Halia Artisan, Hannah C, Harpy Curo, Helen P, Harising, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jello Salad, Jen Michelle, Gender Queer, Jenny G, Jessa Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, Kai, Catherine, Katie, Katrina, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura is Angry, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Lindsay, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man Eating Plant, Megan, Malara, Mentally Unwell, May, Mima Who, Myth Lesbian, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Paige P, Pandemonium, Paul, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Plague Carrier, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Rhea, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Sakoria, Sadie, Saintbringer, Sakyalume, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shamed, Shannon, Sheen Onion, Sean, Sophie L, Stardust, T Delegati, Talia, That Nerdy Mystic, This Is Not a Trap, Tiana, Too Thick to Work Today, Trash Can Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, Unicorn Jenny, Wobbs, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.